Meet Charlotte. She ends the Zoom meeting and stares at her reflection in the blank screen. The word overqualified rings in her ears. She forces a smile, closes the window to see her inbox with a new automated rejection message. No name, no feedback. A reminder that after 5 months, 3 different resumes, and countless job alerts, she's no closer to landing a role. Charlotte climbed the ladder in her career. From SVP to CHO to COO, she's led teams in HR and operations with clarity and with confidence. She's the type of leader who remembers people's birthdays, fixes broken systems, and can solve difficult problems because she has so much experience. But at 58, she wonders if that matters anymore. All of her kids are grown. Her husband, while supportive, doesn't understand what it's like to be dismissed because you've done too much, to feel invisible because your hair is silver and your interviewer is half your age. She never thought that she would be the one in her home office refreshing LinkedIn like clockwork and questioning if her background is considered valuable in today's world. All she wants is one company to give her an opportunity, not because she's a culture fit, but because she's a force of wisdom, relevance, and grit. And most days, the silence speaks louder than the rejection. And as her job search drags on, she only feels more outdated. Today, I'm speaking with Loren Greiff, founder of Portfolio Rocket and an executive career strategist who helps C-suite leaders over the age of 40 find high-paying roles without having to rely on job boards, easy apply buttons, or soulless resume rewrites. Loren has helped over 400 executives break into the hidden job market and to find the right opportunity in a world that seems to have forgotten what matters most when it comes to hiring. And I'm excited to hear how Loren would advise someone like Charlotte, someone who has so much more to give, but feels as though there are too many obstacles in the way of her finding the right opportunity. My name is Jay Abbasi, and welcome to Unstuck. Real people, real stories, real solutions. While the details are changed to protect anonymity, what you just heard is based on a true story of challenges that come up in the real world. And we discuss how to navigate these environments with practical tips to help you get unstuck and build a more fulfilling, impactful, and balanced life and career. So Loren, take me back to 2019. You were put on a PIP and it led to so much change after that. Tell me the story of what happened.
I sure will. And I hope people are sitting down because this stuff is real. Like when I tell you this story, you're going to be like, no, that didn't happen. So I was working at like this big fancy schmancy, executive headhunting firm that in my mind, I had thought, hey, I've arrived. Like I had worked for this position for a very long time. And coincidentally, they came and recruited me. Like it had been percolating for a while. Anyway, I was doing, I thought I was doing well. And I had a lot of performance success. In other words, my numbers were strong. I thought my relationships were strong. And they did know what they were getting when they hired me, because I'm not exactly a suit. And I thought I could play one in real life, but here's where it gets interesting. So one of my candidates was nearing the end of his interview period, and so much excitement was going on in the firm because this was a very hard placement. And I put the word yippee in an email to both the the candidate as well as the CEO, the decision maker. And a couple minutes later, on my door, and it's my boss, and she says, "I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "Okay," I'm like all excited because we're about to score a big deal. And she says, "Well, you're using very unprofessional language in your emails, and we've noticed that this could be causing some, damage to our reputation." And I'm thinking, yippee! Well, just FYI, the CEO of the company was was dropping the F-bomb like every third word. And so I literally was like, "Are you serious? Like, are you for real?" And she said, 100%. And if you continue in this, in this, path, I'm going to write you up for insubordination to add to it. And so I was like, oh boy. So that was I'm pretty sure it was a Thursday. And by Monday, I was like, I'm out. I'm done. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I had never, I don't know what hit me, but I think it's like this for a lot of people, right? It's not the big thing, it's the broken shoelace, right? Like something happens and you can't necessarily put your finger on it. And I'm sure that what had built a lot of momentum up till that point was some kind of unsavory remarks about my age, some comments about how my office was the only one that had anything on the walls, and it was very homey in here, and so it was just a big culture clash.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
you have that look on your face, like,
Well, that's crazy for saying yippee in an email. And I think that's not an isolated story. I think a lot of people have these stories of something where something so inconsequential leads to them leading to some sort of performance review or PIP or whatever. Oh, so what you said, it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. But what do you think was boiling up? Like, were there what was yeah.
a lot of things. And also, I find this to be very consistent and in parallel structure with a lot of what goes on for pretty much anyone in a job search, especially if you're over 40, which is you've been doing all the things. You've been playing by the rules. You've been climbing some kind of ladder. And all of a sudden you find yourself in this place where you're like, how did I get here? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't even really like it anymore. All I know is that this is what I do. This is how I earn a living. But I'm not so sure that I feel fulfilled or happy. And that had been brewing in my mind also for a long time as I was witness and also participating in what I consider, the defunct and dysfunctional hiring process that we still have going on in today's world.
Talk to me about that, because you said that. I saw that on your website too. You use the exact terms. There's a broken hiring system. What's broken?
What's not broken?
So tell me about it. What do you see as broken?
Yeah. Take you through the three top things that are broken. The first is that we have all been, quote unquote, raised to hit apply now, and somehow, some way that you're going to be selected and you're going to be moving on to an interview process. And if I just keep hitting apply now, over and over and over again, it's just a numbers game. So, I mean, like, eventually I'm going to, land a position that really works for me. The second thing that's broken is that we have learned to outsource our future to other people, like recruiters. I often say, the recruiters are not your messiah. They're not there to, basically make your job, make your next job right for you. They have a job to do, and that is to put a person in a seat, a placement You are not paying them. They are being paid by the client, who is also the company that has an open role. So they are not there to prepare you. They are not there to necessarily navigate, the some of the challenges that you might be having if you're going through an imposter syndrome, period. If you don't have enough metrics, they're not going to say, "Oh, by the way, that story really isn't rich enough with metrics and data." They're not going to go through and find the areas that is going to enhance your candidacy. Why? Because they've got numbers on their back and lots of recs to fill. So they need those candidates to be ready by the time they get there. So the over-reliance on recruiters creates a false level of expectation. Like, what are you going to do for me, right? Like, aren't you going to help get me a job? Recruiters don't help get you a job. They help fill positions for their client.
Yeah. I
Right?
I'm pretty sure you know Joel Lagley on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
Joel. Yeah. And he gave me that feedback once and I never forgot it. I just hopped on a call with him just because, just like you and I, right? We connect, we just get to know one another, through LinkedIn, through people that we know. I forgot how. It might have been through our friend Billy, where I met Joel, and he told me, he's like, recruiters are not advocating for you, the applicant. They are always advocating for the company that they're filling the rec for.
That's right. And as the faster they fill those roles, the more compensation you as the recruiter have, because it's a speed to market game, right? Like the way that it would be if you're working at a restaurant. How many turns can you get a night?
Mm.
So the more turns that you have, the more the revenue is for the company. So they're not in a position where they're going to say, okay, well, I have 3 amazing clients who are ready to go. So I'm just going to go and work with this other person and bring them up to market readiness so I could have another one, in the slate.
It's really valuable to know that that's how the game is played, essentially, right? That's how the game is played. So when you know that those are the rules of the game, you can be a little bit smarter in your approach. So you mentioned one, the apply now, hit that button and hope that your name gets selected. The second was the over reliance on recruiters. Is there anything else that you feel is the reason why we have a broken system?
The other reason why we have a broken system is because for so long, it's been also gamed by an oversaturation of keywords, right? We know that the keyword density, which also aligns with, algorithms in applicant tracking systems, and there are algorithms, of course, 17 of them on LinkedIn. But you could have all the keywords you want. You could stuff it all day long. If you can't tell those stories, what does it matter? So keywords that used to be very, very persuasive, like MBA, right? Or, any of these, jargon, what they're really moving away from is a lot of pedigree, right? Reliance on pedigree. Oh, you went to Wharton. Oh, you must be smart. You must be good. Not anymore. I still need to know what your skills are, and I still need to know what your story is to solve my problem.
Yeah. And Loren, I just got curious because I've known you for years. And obviously, when you talk about this, you're so passionate about it. I can hear it. Like, I know you're passionate, but you care so much. You want to help people who are in these situations, people like Charlotte. And I just thought I'd ask you, what's behind that? Why is this something you're so passionate about?
I'm so passionate about it, and it's actually my mission. I'll share it with you. So my mission is to end career victimization by elevating, accelerating, and celebrating one executive over 40 at a time. So what brought me to that place was in part what happened to me personally. We all bring our personal, meaning into what we do. But I think what really was happening as I was seeing it over and over and over again is this in some ways fatalistic or dejected idea that I'm just too old to do this, or I don't have another reinvention that is next, or I can't somehow pivot from one industry to another, or how is this like now I've got to just throw my hands up in the air and go, done. But I don't want to be done. I don't want somebody to tell me that I have an expiration date. Who are you? And I play that game all day long, and not as a game, as a truth. That is the truth. Nobody gets to tell you when you want to expire, if you want to expire. Because I got news for you: I'm never retiring.
I tell people all the time, Lauren, I'm in the same way. I don't think I'd ever retire. I love what I do. Maybe I'll slow it down a little bit at some point, but I don't ever see myself just, doing nothing and just having hobbies. Like, I enjoy this work too much. Okay, so you brought up the victimization that comes up when people say, maybe I'm just too old. And the word ageism is thrown around so much in today's world. I can't tell you how many people I meet that use that word. They bring it up themselves. They say, Jay, ageism, I'm trying to find something, and they're not even considering me because of my age, right? What is your position on ageism?
Absolutely. So, for anybody who's listening and wants to go check me out on LinkedIn, I'll tell you that I have a little moniker at the end of my headline that says, loudmouth age activist. And I am a very loud mouthy person around this. So I'm glad you asked.
Good. I can't wait to hear it. Come on.
So the biggest distinction I really want your audience and anybody to understand is that no one cares about your experience. Okay. 30 years of experience, 20 years of experience. We've all heard that before. That will date you. And the reason why is because you're not telling me what the experience aligns to as far as why it's relevant. Big difference between experience and relevance. Relevance says, I am still somebody. I am not even still. How dare me? I am somebody who understands the currency of my industry. I'm somebody who understands technology. I am somebody who has the pattern recognition because I've seen these things before. I've been through crises like the pandemic. I've been through, seeing companies fail and been in difficult situations. I have taken this company, IPO, so I know what that's like if, that were to come up again. So the experience has been a little bit of a placeholder and maybe even self-congratulatory and saying, oh, but I have 30 years of experience. It's a double-edged sword because if you can't bank it off of why it matters now, why it's relevant, then what I often say is you'll just be writing your own professional obituary. Because everything will be pointing backwards instead of pointing forward. And that also really, really starts to create this idea and perception that your best years are over. I did this. I sold that. I led this. It's all past tense.
I want to just double down on what you said there for everyone to really internalize the shift in mindset of pointing backwards to pointing forwards. That hit me as you said it, because you're right. That's oftentimes what people are going into, that pattern of, let me tell you about all the things I've done over my 30 plus years and that experience. But you need to be able to tell me what that experience means right now and into the future. So when you say tell that story, Loren, are you referring to how you brand yourself, how it appears in the resume, how you answer questions in interviews, or all of the above?
So what we do in my consultancy called Portfolio Rocket is we develop what we call tomorrow stories. And tomorrow stories are designed to leverage. So an example would be, right, and we this happens a lot. right? And anybody is probably who's listening to this can pick this up, not in an apples to apples way, but let's just say in your last company, you went through an RFP and brought on some kind of new software or CRM or something, right? Chances are it's still working today. It's still in existence today. So you won that RFP, or you brought that in because it had all this revenue upside and time saving benefits and blah blah blah, right? But now let's amortize that. Now let's take that and see, okay, so why does that, so great, you did this, but what it's really doing is it is also that investment is paying off, and it's still yielding, some 30% reduction in efficiency today. And over the past, for the life of this here software, right, we know that it will have this long lasting impact.
Yeah.
And so we want to take all these things that happened. They're not dead. They're not over. There's no cutoff. They're still in existence. And that goes for people, that goes for processes, that goes for revenue, that can go for many, many, many things, right? How long have they been at that number 2 market share? What did you do to prepare them for them moving into number 1 market share? What is that market share worth? What will it be worth, in X period of time? So, to be able to think about it, not just as a been there, done that, to be able to think about it in the way that we talk about lifetime value of X customer. Now we're talking about the lifetime value of your impact.
Yeah. Well, let me get your take on this, Loren, because I agree 100%. I also am remembering so many conversations I've had with people where I gave them similar advice. I love the way you put it as tomorrow stories. And the response is, well, I don't know if I can take credit for that. Like, I don't like to talk about myself. I don't like to brag about myself. What do you say to someone who hesitates to put that story out there and to take that kind of credit, even though they contributed towards those results?
Right. I mean, first and foremost, you're always going to be honest. All right.
Of course.
And nobody is looking for like down to the penny estimated amount. If you feel better, an approximate ROI of this. What you're saying is you understand the impact. And I'm not saying that precision doesn't matter. What I'm saying is you want to impart the idea that this wasn't it's more than the piece of software or the initiative itself. It's the concentric rippling effect of what it did, right? I have a CHRO right now, and we're talking about the people leaks. All the places where the revenue leaks because of poor management. But we aren't putting it into, I help people stay at this company based off of retention. What we're talking about is something much bigger than that, which is people want to come to work because the management is good, and that's good for profitability and not having to replace people and all that. But we're coming at it from a business standpoint, not necessarily just from a, common language place, so that it has more resonance with the people that may have difficulty seeing the value in human resources, even though people always say, oh, people are our greatest assets, right?
Yeah. It's being able to ensure, of course, like you said, honesty and integrity, while acknowledging the contribution. Because I think that, for example, you could say that, even because how often are you the only one that did something, right? It's so often, everything is a team effort, right? So you could say you contributed towards.
Right. Like, I led, I spearheaded a program with the following people that led to blah, blah, blah. I mean, here's the other point, and just to play devil's advocate on this. You can't have it both ways, right? You can't be seen as the lead candidate with, and then not want to take any credit for the things that matter in your candidacy. So pick one, and it's not bragging if it's true. I mean, honestly, you don't have to beat your chest and pretend that you're the epitome of God's gift. But my point is, you have to be sure-footed in the confidence that you have to be able to be that difference maker. There's plenty of parity out there in the market. There's plenty of meh. They're going to hire you for your mastery.
Right. And you have to be willing to highlight it, showcase it. So what we're talking about here, right? The word branding gets brought up, right? And how important it is to have a brand. And I want to be sure I'm not only saying this for people who are in a state of unemployment where they're trying to find a job. We're also talking about ways to ensure that if something like this does happen, like it happened to Charlotte, where your role gets eliminated, that you put yourself in the best position to then find the next opportunity. So can you talk to me about what you've learned over the years? Because you've helped hundreds of people now land great roles, executive roles. Tell me about the importance of personal branding.
So this is something that a lot of folks, if they've been in a position for an extended period of time, let's just call it like 5 or 7 years, and then they hear, what do you mean, like, I gotta like have a personal brand? Like, isn't that for influencers? Like, why do I have to do this? So good news, you don't have to, but you should. And why should you? Because the sea of sameness is real, right? Everybody looks the same. There's thousands of chief marketing officers on the market, thousands of CFOs. If you don't own your flavor of marketing or CFO, or your, they call it your unique point of difference, I like to call it your unfair advantage, then what you're doing is you're just blending into this entire grouping of people that do similar things than you, may have the same compensation, may live in the same geographic area. You're just making it harder for decision makers to understand, like, are you, the back to the flavor thing, are you the mint chocolate chip? Are you Rocky Road? Like, what are you doing here that really speaks to me above and beyond a title, right? Like,
Yeah.
the title dependency is another thing. Well, I'm a CMO. Well, right now, who isn't?
Yeah.
I may this, I may that. And the idea, and I think that this is really powerful and also uncomfortable, is different is better than better.
I like that a lot. I also think, like, for someone who's hearing this and they say, well, but I love my job. Like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. Here's my analogy to them. Okay, you could be in a great relationship right now. You're married or you have a, partner. It doesn't mean that you just stop taking care of yourself, right? I mean, you still go to the gym. You still, hopefully you're eating well. Like, you still, wake up in the morning and you present yourself in a way, right?
Such a great analogy. Such a great analogy. If you are a professional, you have a responsibility to do this. You do. Yeah. You do. And also, along with that branding piece comes thought leadership. What are you doing to make your compadres, constituents, what are you doing to make them smarter?
Yeah. How are you showing up? Yeah.
How are you bringing them something to help them as a collective? Not just to write because, you want a selfie. Okay, I get that. And there's merit to that in terms of, how LinkedIn responds. But at the same time, what can you bring them? And this is also a filter that I encourage all of my clients to go through. And if I ask them to do it, you better believe I got to model that too, right? I don't ever want to be that person that I'm telling you to do it, but I'm not doing it myself. So you can trust that all of my content is designed to help you see or learn or figure out or uncover something that you may not have thought of before. And I think that that's really the greatest gift that all of us can do, because nobody knows everything. And that's how I learned. I learned from you. I learned from Billy. I learned from all these people, because goodness gracious, I could never cover that territory. I'm not an expert in anything.
Yeah, well, we've collaborated on things in the past, right? And I've seen that in action from you, where you want to just add value to others, and I think that that's your difference, right, Loren? Like that's how you are. Like you said, it's difference is better than better. It's your unique value proposition and how you serve the world, and what I then want to hear your thoughts about is in this story with Charlotte, right? She's been trying for months, Loren, and she has been actively looking on the job boards, submitting the applications. When you read that story, what did you notice was the mistake she was making? Like, what were the things that you were like, okay, this is what she's doing wrong?
So what I read in this very emblematic story, right? This is so many of us. Why is this working? Why isn't this working? Well, first of all, at that level, if you've been in a previous job for a long time, there's a very high likelihood that you're running your search the way that you did when you were 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Knock, knock, look around, right? Like, we don't live in that world anymore, right? Where's mentions of AI? Where are any of these relevant cues? So first and foremost, I want you to understand the game is not that anymore. So we've got to meet the market where it is. The biggest thing, and this is not easy, but I will tell you, it's worth not only the consideration, it is absolutely so vital to understand that this is the bigger question outside of keywords, outside of a job description, outside of applying or any of that. And I just did a post on this, I think it was yesterday, which was, I want to know the urgent and expensive problem that you have the unfair advantage to solve for. I'm going to repeat it. What is the urgent and expensive problem you have the unfair advantage to solve for? So, why is this important? We know that nobody does anything unless their hair is on fire. Companies don't hire people if it's a nice to have role just because it's a backfill. I mean, they do, but it takes a lot longer than somebody who may be doing something that can solve a very urgent problem, a 911. And you'll see that over and over again, because the roles that are taking longer or backburnered or scheduled for next year, that should be a clue, right? Not that pressing, not that urgent. Your job is to figure out what that urgent and expensive problem is on their side, that company. If it's expensive, that's even better. If it's an expensive problem and you know how to solve it, that means they want to pay you for it. They want to pay you for it. They're not going to be messing around, right? If you're the only person on the planet that knows Python as a coding language, yeah, you're in high demand. So the more expensive it is to solve, and you know how to solve it, you're in a good position. You're in high demand. And then lastly, if you don't know what your unfair advantage is, then you are back in that parity pool, right? Because other people may know how to solve it, but they may not have the unfair advantage, right? And so we actually do a lot of deep diving. And so I would be asking that question to Charlotte. I would be asking that question 100% to Charlotte. And I guarantee you that within half an hour, we would not only have some of her unfair advantages, but we would really be able to stand at that balcony level and say, aside from all the jargon, what's that expensive problem that you're solving? Oh my God, it could be worth millions or billions of dollars. You know, people in healthcare, you're talking lives, especially if they're working in a capacity where, I mean, think about what happened with COVID. I just talked to somebody the other day. She's telling me about all the tests that a thousand tests a day for, I think it was 90 days, right? She had to distribute, she had to get this inventory, distribute it. And so she's just talking to me about the logistics and the mechanics. I was like, no. You're in the life-saving business.
Yeah.
You're in the life-saving business. You're in the family protection saving business.
Really what you're pointing to is just, effective marketing. Isn't that what this is?
100%. 100%. And that is a really astute, piece of insight, because you're a product and service in the marketplace of hiring. You're a product and service. Yeah.
So Charlotte then figures out, Loren, let's say, okay,
yes.
I've recognized my urgent and expensive problem that I have an unfair advantage to solve. Yes. She then, I think, if I'm hearing you right, would be putting that information into her LinkedIn profile and things like that.
Every touch point. It could be in her voicemail. It could be on her signature. It could be, part of, obviously, her headline on LinkedIn. It could be, many, 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 many different places.
Okay.
We want that. Yes.
So she's doing that. She does that, let's say, and then she is continuing to go about her approach with the job boards, the applications. Is there anything else you would recommend to her in regards to strategy? Because she's striking out. Like, I know that marketing was a big part of it, but I know there are other things that you would invite her to consider. So what would be some other strategies you'd recommend?
Can I swear on your podcast?
Sure.
All right. I'm not a big swearer, but this is an expletive that needs to be said. Get the fuck away from those applicant tracking systems as your main meal. I'm not saying never. If you're senior, you already have a network. Maybe it's a little atrophied. That's okay. Don't worry about that. But this is where those tomorrow stories really come in. I will also tell you, it will not be overnight, but it will be the best investment that you ever make. People hire people. They don't hire resumes. They don't hire LinkedIn profiles. And what's going to get you hired is just some raw statistics. And I just was pulling these earlier today, right? A lot of recruiting firms are essentially, some of the larger companies, but 99% of all small businesses, and those are not like small, like mom and pop businesses. Those are with under like 1,000 employees. Those companies, they don't outsource to recruiters. They go through referrals. They call somebody like you and like I would. Hey, Jay, do you know somebody that would be able to do that? Bam, bam, bam. And why? The quality is so much higher, and that referred candidate stays 4 to 5 times longer, moves faster through the process, ramps faster. So all of this stuff is beneficial for both parties. So if you're avoiding it because you may not feel like, I'm really uncomfortable with networking, please know this. It's something that you can learn and something you should learn, because if you have another 5, 6, 7, 8 more years of your career, it's not going back to normal.
Yeah. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, Loren, because I know it works, it works, but I can imagine the listener saying, yeah, that sounds good. Yet they're going to go back to the same strategies because they might try once or twice and then they give up, right? Do you have a story you can share? Is there like some experience that you can go to of someone that you've either worked with or you've connected with where they really took you seriously and they did this, and what was the result of it?
Stories. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about a guy who came to me. I think it was like a week after or week before Thanksgiving, not in 20. This is in 23, and I remember this because I'm still very close with him now. So he got laid off. He said, I'm in my, mid 50s. I'm male, pale, and stale. Okay. Like, who is going to hire me? Right. And he was a mess. I don't know how I'm going to get hired. I'm just engaged. I don't want to tell my new family that I'm unemployed around the holidays. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, let's not write the story yet. And he got so amped up about, I'm just going to say, he was kind of like, I'm done doing all the things that aren't working. Just tell me what to do. I am so ready to take some serious action because I'm not getting the results that I want. So I'm going to turn this over to somebody that is getting results. And he was found through a comment. So he was commenting on LinkedIn. He was found through a comment. He thought that person who was reaching back out to him then in the DMs was poaching him for candidates. Like he didn't realize that he was interested in him. That turned into a C-level role. It turned into a C-level role. And then after that, he got another offer, which was even better. And so that role, and then I think it was like a week or two ago, he got struck by lightning in a good way again, and was offered a board position through another comment.
Through comments. Wow. I'm blown away at the fact that a comment could lead to such amazing results. I thought you were going to tell me about a story of like someone who, they went out and met people for coffee or they DM, but this is just by being active and engaged on LinkedIn.
And this was also from him being intentional about curating his feed. So he wanted to stay within, he was a chemical engineer. He wanted to stay within this vertical. Yeah. And so we basically did a lot of, just a lot of, putting some parameters in place. Who are the people who are the, thought leaders in your industry within the companies that you'd be excited about? And somebody from some other thread saw this comment and then got interested, went back to his profile, learned a little bit more about him, and the rest is the rest. I have so many fascinating stories along those lines. I have another guy. This is also really interesting because everybody knows that the advertising industry is notorious for being youth obsessed. And so, here he is, and he is just like madder than hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. But what he did, which was fascinating, and I think this is so telling, whereas most people take off a lot of their gig jobs, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, he said, no way. I'm taking credit for every single one of them. Let them come after me. Let them ask me about how many jobs I've had in the last 2 years. At least I'm still working. Well, Facebook saw that, Meta, and they said, we like this guy. You know why we like this guy? He is not afraid to be agile and to be able to reinvent and to pick up new systems and to meet new people in this process. Because while it looks like it's 10, 11 jobs over a very short period of time, it's not saying to me, it's not scaring us and going, oh, you can't keep a job. What they're seeing is this guy knows how to roll with some uncertainty.
Yeah.
And make good on his commitments to, in this case, his family and also his craft, because his work product just kept getting better and better.
It's so often that people, when they present what is their fear, that's the thing they should be leaning into. They should be doubling down on. They shouldn't be hiding from that. If you feel like you should hide it, that might be a sign that you need to actually put more out there.
Right. Different is better than better, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what, like, if you're afraid of that, like that's the authentic, raw stuff that gets people to see you as a unique value proposition versus others who are just all blah and bland. And Loren, I want to be sure that I ask you how you would really help Charlotte in this case, because she's the problem is something that is very common of people of
Totally.
this age, of this season. And you brought up a few questions already. So maybe you may just run through some of those again, which is totally okay. But if, let's say, she went on your LinkedIn, she reached out to you, you had a one-on-one call with her, she tells you her story, and you listen, and then you have a chance to ask her a question or two to really get her to start thinking differently and to
Mhm.
shift her mindset a bit, what would you ask her, Loren?
So one of my favorite questions that seems to light up a lot of people that I talk to in the early stages because they want to get back into their history is to make a choice. And I'm going to give you the three choices. And the question is, Charlotte, as you think about your next role position, which one of the following is your number one non-negotiable? Is your next career move about a different culture, right? You've had a toxic boss. It's been a lot of, like maybe microaggressions around X, Y, or Z. Is it about, more mobility, growth within your role? Is your next role about a new or different or bigger challenge? Are you looking for more surface within the company, maybe a seat at the table, maybe a larger team, maybe to move into a more innovative area like AI or other emerging technologies? Is there a new challenge that you're dying to take on? Or is it about compensation? Have you been in a position where, for whatever reasons, your earning capacity has been stunted? You may not be making the money that you thought was really good and it hasn't gone up, or you haven't had a raise in a long time and you want to use this as a way to compensate or bring you up to a certain compensation level. Whichever, there's no right or wrong answer, of course, but there are different strategies for different ones, because if you say compensation, you may be willing to take some allowances for more travel, right? You know that every single one of them is going to come with some kind of trade-off, but you've got to be able to put your head down on the pillow and go, that's how I know it's successful, because I got what was my non-negotiable, and chances are you're going to get the other two, but we have to have a way to be able to drive that. And only Charlotte would be able to know that. Only she would be able to know that and to be able to, co-author whatever that looks like with somebody along that path. Because so many of those variables we don't think about, and then we want to move the line and but damn it, you know what? It's perfect. If only. And it's by that point you're already seduced by what this opportunity is. And sometimes we find out later on it didn't meet my primary goal.
What I love about what you said is that you're forcing people to think about what they really want versus initially you're just caught in all the fear and what I have to grab a hold on because I need a job. You shift them into thinking about the future and also helping them to make a decision around what's most important. Because I think that too often we want it all, but we have to be able to prioritize. And I think that the way you frame that invites people to think a bit different. And for anyone listening, I highly recommend checking out Loren on LinkedIn. It's Loren Greiff, not Grief. It's Loren Greiff, and that's spelled LorenGreiff. And you will find so much great info on what Loren's doing with Portfolio Rocket. You have great content in there, so I encourage people to follow you. Loren, thank you so much. I'm going to have a problem, I think, when I listen back to this episode, because I always want to pull out the main insights and actionable takeaways. And I feel like there are going to be a lot. So I'll do my best to synthesize it for our audience. But you were fantastic as I expected. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay. Always, always, always. I mean, like literally like brother from another mother, I swear. Enjoy some water ice And I will be seeing you around the LinkedIn streets very, very, very soon. With all my heart. Thank you so much for everything, Jay.
You may have sensed it from that conversation, but I've known Loren for years. She's so passionate about this subject, and she also knows her stuff. So I will do my best to synthesize it down. 3 insights, 3 actionable takeaways. First insight, the system is broken. If you're relying on the apply now button, or outsourcing your future to recruiters, or trying to find the right keywords to play the ATS system, you're going to struggle. Realize that the system, the way it's designed, is broken, and there are alternative paths to finding the right opportunity if you're searching. The second insight, different is better than better. Differentiate yourself. What makes you unique? Understand that there is a sea of sameness that you can fall into. So what is your unfair advantage? I love the way she presented that. It was very different. And you want to make it so it's easy for the hiring managers to be able to identify what makes you, you. Third insight, stop pointing backwards. Point forwards. Rather than sharing how many years of experience you have, identify how that's relevant to today's problems. Identify how the work you've done is continuing to make an impact. You've contributed towards change in a way that still has some positive effect, has a ripple effect. Recognize that impact and be sure that that is something that you are pointing to as why you are of value in today's market. Actionable takeaways, first of 3. Number 1, the question: what is the urgent and expensive problem that you have an unfair advantage to solve for? Know what that is. Answer that question and be sure that you include it in every touch point, your LinkedIn profile, your email, everywhere. Make sure that that is something that people are seeing. Second actionable takeaway: get away from ATS as your main meal. If 15 years ago, that's how you would find a job, you're trying to use an approach that's outdated. You have to meet the market where it is. She talked about how one of her clients was commenting on LinkedIn, and that's how he found a role. He was curating his LinkedIn feed. That's an example of the kind of strategy that works in today's world. And your third actionable takeaway: what is your number 1 non-negotiable? She brought up 3 different options. She said, is it culture and growth? Is it number 2? Is it more about a new, bigger, different challenge? Or number 3, is it about compensation? Now, hopefully you can check all 3 boxes, but there is always a trade-off. Know what is your number 1 non-negotiable, and that will help you to determine what is the right next step in your career. Join us on Friday's episode. I'm excited because we are going through the top 5 lessons from 100 episodes of Unstuck. It is our 100th episode. That's a huge milestone. And I want to identify and share with you the best lessons that we've learned in all these episodes, from speaking with incredible expert guests like Loren, people who are experts in their fields. What can we pull from all those conversations? If you haven't listened to it yet, last Friday I went over 10 through 6. And this coming Friday, we will do 5 through 1. We are ranking the top lessons. I'm so excited for that episode to launch on Friday, so be sure that you check that out. And until next time, thank you so much for listening.